chaps.
10th of October 1957, the Windscale fire became Britain's worst nuclear disaster, releasing significant amounts of radioactive contamination into the atmosphere.
But also strontium and cesium and a lot of other unpleasant material.
The fire broke out in one of two reactors at the Windscale nuclear facility in Cumberland, now Cumbria, which had been built to produce plutonium for Britain's nuclear weapons program. The incident exposed critical safety flaws and had lasting consequences for nuclear policy, public confidence, and environmental health. After the Second World War, Britain was determined to develop its own nuclear weapons. Despite wartime cooperation, the United States refused to share its atomic technology under the McMahon Act, forcing Britain to establish an independent nuclear program. This led to the construction of the Windscale reactors in the late 1940s. These reactors, air-cooled and using graphite as a neutron moderator, were crucial for producing weapons-grade plutonium. However, safety considerations were often secondary to the urgency of weapons production. One key issue was the buildup of Wigner energy in the graphite moderator, which needed to be periodically released through a controlled heating process known as annealing. It was during one of these routine annealing operations that the disaster occurred. On the 7th of October 1957, an annealing procedure was initiated in Windscale's Pile 1 reactor. However, the heating process did not go as planned. Temperatures continued to rise, and by 10th October, a fire had ignited deep within the reactor's uranium fuel cartridges. Since the reactor relied on natural airflow for cooling, oxygen fed the flames, intensifying the fire and making it nearly impossible to extinguish.
The Atomic Energy Authority have announced that some uranium cartridges in the center of the atomic pile at Windscale became overheated yesterday. The authority have said that staff are now reducing the temperature of the pile with water. At the moment, a northeast wind is blowing across the Windscale factory and is taking any radioactive dust or vapor out to sea.
At first, the operators were unaware of the full severity of the situation. Radiation monitors detected rising contamination levels, but by the time they realized a serious fire was raging inside the core, it was already out of control. The burning uranium and graphite released radioactive isotopes, including iodine-131, cesium-137, and polonium-210, into the atmosphere. James Tate, the reactor manager, and Tom Tuohy, the deputy general manager, led desperate efforts to contain the disaster. Attempts to smother the flames by cutting off airflow failed. Pumping carbon dioxide into the core also had little effect. Finally, Tuohy made the risky decision to spray water directly onto the burning reactor, a move that could have triggered an even more dangerous explosion. Fortunately, this strategy worked, and by the morning of 11th of October, the fire was extinguished. In the wake of the disaster, scientists from the Atomic Energy Research Establishment at Harwell played a crucial role in investigating the causes and consequences of the Windscale fire. Harwell, Britain's primary nuclear research facility, had been at the forefront of nuclear science since its establishment in 1946. Its researchers conducted detailed analysis of the damaged reactor, studying how the fire had spread and assessing the extent of radioactive contamination. Harwell's experts also contributed to the development of improved safety protocols, particularly regarding Wigner energy release. Their findings highlighted the need for more precise control of the annealing process and better temperature monitoring within graphite-moderated reactors. Additionally, Harwell scientists were involved in evaluating the health risks posed by the radiation release, informing government decisions on public safety measures. The work carried out at Harwell influenced subsequent reactor designs, leading to safer alternatives such as gas-cooled reactors with enhanced containment systems. The lessons learned from Windscale ultimately helped shape the future of Britain's nuclear industry. The Windscale fire released significant radioactive contamination into the atmosphere, carried by prevailing winds across northern England and beyond. The most concerning isotope was iodine-131, which posed a serious health risk due to its tendency to accumulate in the thyroid gland, increasing the likelihood of thyroid cancer. Emergency measures were implemented, including the destruction of contaminated milk in affected areas, but there was no mass evacuation. To avoid public panic, the government downplayed the incident. An official inquiry was launched, but its findings were not widely publicized at the time. With Britain still committed to its nuclear ambitions, officials sought to preserve public confidence. Only years later did the full extent of the radioactive release and its potential health impacts become widely understood.
They must travel in special packages designed to International Atomic Energy Agency regulations. Oil is a good moderator. Fissile material must therefore not be allowed to accumulate in it. In the case of these pumps, a number of safety precautions have been employed.
The Windscale disaster marked a turning point for Britain's nuclear industry. In its aftermath, safety regulations were significantly tightened, and future reactors were designed with improved features to prevent similar incidents. The fire also influenced Britain's decision to abandon air-cooled reactors in favour of more advanced gas-cooled designs. Despite these advancements, Windscale remains a stark reminder of the risks of nuclear energy, particularly when safety is compromised by political and military pressures. The site continued operating in various capacities for decades, with extensive decommissioning efforts still ongoing. More broadly, the disaster shaped public perception of nuclear power, fueling long-standing debates about its safety and viability. While Britain pressed ahead with nuclear expansion, the Windscale fire underscored the need for rigorous safety protocols and transparent communication with the public. Ultimately, Windscale was more than an industrial accident. It was a consequence of Cold War urgency and the relentless pursuit of nuclear capability. The lessons learned continue to influence nuclear policy and reactor safety standards worldwide, helping to prevent future catastrophes.
Britain shows her faith in the new world atmosphere by taking the scientists of the world inside her most closely guarded security fence, the Atomic Energy Research Establishment at Harvard.
Atomic Energy Research Establishment, which has transformed the village of Harwell in Berkshire, has now opened its doors to the newsreel camera. So here's a glimpse inside the mystery building where many hundreds of scientists live and work. Cleanliness even extends to magic doors that open without being touched and so contaminated. Safety measures, in fact, against radioactive dust are as impressive as they are ubiquitous. Everything is kept spotless to make Harwell as safe to work in as any factory. Before leaving his work, every operator pays special attention to his hands, and there are scientific machines to test them for radioactivity.
The station is, of course, equipped with a cyclotron, a giant machine generating a 200 million volt stream of atomic particles. And here's the Van de Graaff generator for use in a special study of the inside of atoms. Let's hope British atomic scientists can continue to work for constructive rather than destructive purposes.